And I would say that this curriculum is great for people who are just starting out, but also people who are really far along in their art career. It's basics that will help you regardless. So Clara, do you want to take it away with the first tip we have?
Yeah, I think, like Deepti said, these are tips that honestly I should be doing. Like, this is one that I'm so guilty of not doing enough of, and that is a daily sketchbook practice. Now, we don't just mean draw on your sketchbook. The key word here is daily. Why is it daily, Deepti, and not, say, 5-hour sketchbook marathon once a week?
Well, daily, first of all, will put you in the habit of having a routine. And it's kind of like going to the gym. I think it's better to work out 10 minutes every single day because you're strengthening your body in a slow, incremental way, rather than if you do it once for 5 hours, it's just going to be too much and you're not going to be able to absorb. So I think it's about realizing that it's a process and it's a learning process. And if you're even sketching 10 minutes a day, it's furthering you. It's small steps to like a bigger goal rather than one huge step, which just might be frustrating and you'll get burnt out.
And your 10 minutes in your sketchbook, it can be literally anything. It can be little drawings of your guinea pig because you honestly cannot think of something else to draw. It could be you just throwing down crummy sketches just to get an idea. And I think that's important to recognize because on Instagram, everybody has a perfect sketchbook and everything looks so nice. But Deepti, does anybody's sketchbook truly look like that in real life?
No, if it's on Instagram, it's a good page in the sketchbook because they thought, I'm going to put this on Instagram. Most of us are not putting our sketchbooks on Instagram. And, I like what you said about it can be anything because it can really just be you experimenting with a new tool and seeing what kind of marks a certain brush pen you just bought can make and playing around with mark making. It doesn't have to be something representational, or you can just sit and draw your foot over and over again. Or it really is, as long as you're working your brain and you're working your hand and you're putting something down on a piece of paper, you are farther along than you were 10 minutes ago. And that's the importance of a sketchbook practice.
Deepti, when's my favorite time to sketch? Because I have this baby sketchbook that I don't show anybody. And I carry it with me everywhere. I always sketch in it when I'm waiting in line at the grocery store now, because, with the pandemic, you have to wait 15, 20 minutes in line to go to Trader Joe's. And I'm like, well, I could look at my phone or I could draw these funny looking people in front of me.
People probably think you're so cool. They're like, wow, look at this cool lady who has this fun art practice. We have this comment from W315 that says, can I just doodle aimlessly, or is that no way to grow? I could probably draw the same boring thing each day. We kind of just talked about this, Clara, but do you want to take this question?
Do it. It does not matter how insignificant it is. Maybe you just sketch for a few minutes and then write down some notes. For me, the writing process is just as important as the drawing process. And just because you draw the same thing doesn't mean it's not worthwhile. I mean, I had a colleague who did a project, it was called Armchair. Literally, he drew the same chair for 4 years, over and over and over again. And he made a brilliant project. So never worry about that.
This comment from Seven Angelic is really interesting. I think common with a lot of people. It says, yeah, if I don't have enough time, I feel like I shouldn't invest, but no more, must just sketch. Yeah, I think worrying so much about the end product and how much time you have is really overthinking it. It's really about just doing it and getting in the habit of doing it. It's like brushing your teeth. If you're like, I only have 2 minutes, or I don't even, how long are you supposed to brush your teeth for? Oh gosh.
I don't know. Not 10 minutes for your teeth.
Just brush your teeth regardless of if you think you're going to get every single tooth and have like a dentist quality brushing. Maybe you can't do that, but it's the habit. And then you won't have your teeth falling out. Wow, Deepti and her metaphors. But you get what I'm trying to say. It doesn't matter about the end product with your sketchbook. Really just do it to create a practice and you will see improvement.
And we literally mean 10 minutes, you guys, because I think some people might look at that curriculum and say, really, Professor Lieu, you think 10 minutes is enough? Geez, you really lowered your standards with your pedagogy. And I'm like, I would rather somebody draw 10 minutes every day for a month than once a month for an hour. That to me is not very helpful because there's no continuity and you're just doing it in one big spurt. You're not going to gain very much from that. Now, if you guys don't know where to start, we do have a Google Doc that the link is in the video description below, and we'll talk more about it later. But a lot of these directives, they're simple, but sometimes people really don't know where to start. So this is something very concrete and specific, which is visual journaling. And we do have a video on it, and it's super fun because it's sketchbook work, but you do collage, you can add stickers, you can draw on top of it. And so for those of you guys who are feeling like, oh, I really just don't know what to do, this is a really good part to get started. Now, if you still can't think of what to do beyond that, TVs and movies, who's not doing that nowadays, Deepti? What can you do when you're watching a TV show?
You can sketch. You can look at your favorite characters and draw them. I actually like this comment from Lambda that says, I'm going to do this right now, sketching Prof and Deepti. Yeah, sketch us. Post it in our Discord channel. We love to see it. But just, you're always looking at, whenever you're looking and you're observing, regardless of if it's in life or on screen, just sketch it. Process that in your brain and put it on a piece of paper. But I love doing TV shows because I'm already obsessed with the characters and it's so fun to just, why not? Why not? It's super fun.
Jennifer is saying, but what if you have no motivation at the moment? That's true. Let's say it's the end of the day and you're like, oh, I don't want to do this. I just want to go to bed. Could you give yourself 10 minutes? That's why we say 10 minutes, because most people can say no to an hour. That's like, oh no, that's too big of a commitment. 10 minutes, you're watching a TV show, you're watching Jane Eyre with Michael Fassbender, whatever it is you're watching, could you whip out that sketchbook and just do something for 10 minutes? And it does not have to be good, because a lot of the motivation, I think, is people say, well, I don't want to draw right now because I know I'm going to do a bad job. Fine, do a bad job.
Please do a bad job. I mean, I would even think if you have no motivation, channel that anger and lack of motivation into your sketchbook. Like, just put some ink on your thumb and just scribble it around, and you have no idea what you might discover in that process. So if you're feeling unmotivated, slam your head into your sketchbook and then draw the outline of the imprint that your face makes in the sketch. Like, just find a way to do it, because you will discover something, and make it fun. If you're not feeling motivated, just make it fun.
Jaco says, I always feel like all my sketches need to be top notch and I get discouraged when it doesn't. Guys, have any tips on how to change that mindset? Oh yeah, basically have no expectations. You just say, okay, this is my crap sketchbook. In fact, I literally had a student who told me that her sketchbook was her, quote, garbage can. That's her attitude about her sketchbook. Really, the social media stuff has created totally unrealistic expectations. Like, Deepti, do your sketches all become top notch? Like, what percentage of sketching that you do is top notch?
0. It's never top notch. I've never had a top notch sketch. And that's not the point of sketching. There's a reason it's sketching. It's a tool for brainstorming and for getting the juices flowing and for improving. And great if you want to post that on social media, but you should not have an end goal when it comes to sketching in your sketchbook. It should really be about the process and discovery. And that's what matters. Distance yourself from having an end goal and any expectations, and just focus on the now.
This is a really great suggestion from Simple Triskel, who says, I have a checkbox for, quote, creative effort. Could be a line, 1-minute gesture, writing or sewing. It all counts. The habit is the thing. That is so well said. You guys, listen to Simple Triskel, because those are words of wisdom. Now, if you really, really cannot figure out what to do, put on Art Prof. Guys, I looked at our channel yesterday because it was the new year. We have 687 videos. So you guys don't get to tell me that there's nothing to draw. What is fun about the draw alongs, Deepti? Now, even if you missed it, you didn't get to do the live, you can still go back and do them. Do you think that's a good way to get started?
Definitely. I mean, it's fun because sometimes you don't want to draw by yourself. So watching our draw alongs, we're drawing with you. And we tend to choose pretty funny topics, or, it's loose and it's open, and there's not a lot of, emphasis put on having a wonderful final product. And it's great. It's accessible, and it's a perfect amount of time too. Our draw alongs are about like an hour and a half long. So it's a great way to just sit down and crank something out. And we walk you through the whole process. We walk you through our thought process. And it's a great way of having like a kind of like one-sided, but a discussion. And if you're watching live, you can chat with us. So I think we cover a wide range of topics. There's so many draw alongs that you can do for whatever stage you're at or whatever you're interested in. Really, I think it's very useful.
Now, we are going to talk a lot about drawing from life and different sources. We don't think here that one is better than the other. My feeling about photos and observation and on-site is, as a self-taught artist, you got to do all of it. Like, I think it's a mistake to only draw from life and refuse to draw from a photo. I also think the opposite is a problem. Why do you think people need to learn to draw from different types of references, Deepti?
Well, it's completely different ways of seeing. For example, when you're drawing from life, you're taking something three-dimensional that you're viewing, processing it in your head, and then creating a two-dimensional piece with it. And that's a whole skill in and of itself. Using references is another skill in and of itself. And when you're an artist, you have to be flexible. And it also takes trying a bunch of different things to figure out what you like and what works for you. But also when you're entering a career as an artist, people might ask you to do a variety of different things. So being flexible and being knowledgeable and having these core skills of learning to draw from life and from references and putting it all together is going to make you a stronger artist. But I will say that this tip that we have of drawing a self-portrait from a mirror is foolproof. Will always be there because you are always there, and a mirror is easy to find, or just go buy one if you don't have one. But it's a lot of people make excuses about drawing from observation, but this one, it's you can't run away from it, folks.
You will never say no to yourself. You're always available 24/7. You're free. And I really like this as an option because I love drawing from life, but there are so many practical issues with drawing from life. Oh, it's cold. There's flies on my head because I'm at a cemetery in middle southern Utah. And oh my God, if I died, nobody would find me. But when you have a mirror and you're in your room and you've got a model who's going to cooperate, you can really take your time. Because I think when you draw from life, there is this almost clock ticking because you're like, oh no, the jackfruit's going to rot and then my video tutorial is going to be all messed up, or, oh, the guinea pig had to make a poop, or whatever. But when it comes to draw from life, you can just relax. It's really nice. Like, you've done one before, right, Deepti?
Oh yeah, I've done so many self-portraits from a mirror. And I mean, it's kind of fun to look at your face and really analyze it and find the cool parts of your face and exaggerate. And also, your subject can't get mad at you for portraying, like if you're drawing a friend, they might be like, that doesn't look like me. It's you. Do with it what you please. I mean, this self-portrait, Clara, it looks like you, but it could be a caricature. You can play around with color like you did here. It doesn't have to be a realistic drawing from life, but the fact that you are using a live model and processing that and creating 3D to 2D is the thing that matters. So have fun with it, but it's a really good skill.
Parizad, sorry if I said your name wrong, says, I always rip out my drawings when they don't reach my expectations. I'm really trying to get over that mindset. I feel that having an old half-empty, not aesthetic sketchbook really helps. Guys, save your stuff. Because I know it's frustrating because in the moment you're like, oh, I never want to look at that drawing again. It's a piece of garbage, right? Everybody thinks that. But if you hang on to that stuff and you go back and you look at it maybe a month later, I think it's super fun to go in and be like, oh my God, that's how I was drawing 3 months ago. I mean, I go back at my stuff and I'm like, whoa, I'm a lot better at this than I used to be. Do you ever see that progress, Deepti?
Yeah, even when I was doing my artist stream for Art Prof, my artist profile, I was looking at stuff that I made when I was like 9 or 10. And obviously that's not stuff that I am like, oh gosh, I wish I was drawing. Like I'm embarrassed of it. But there are parts of it where I was like, wow, look at how like free I was and how much I didn't care about what like there's always something that you can draw from your previous work. So if you want to rip it out, fine, but have a folder that you put all the rip outs in. Don't rip it into shreds and get rid of it, because there's always a nugget of inspiration, I think, that you can find in your previous work. And it's a shame to make any sort of effort and then throw it in the trash.
By the way, if you have a self-portrait, that also means you can send us your self-portrait so we can post it on the Art Prof family Instagram. If you guys have not looked at it, there's such cool stuff. It's a self-portrait from people in the community. You can submit multiple. So if you want to send us 2 self-portraits or 3, or you can send us one now and send us one 3 months later. Or if you want to draw Deepti and me right now in all of our glory, we also post staff fan art. So win-win situation, in my opinion. MJ says, any advice for someone with chronic illness? I'm mostly housebound and get bad brain fog. Well, any comments about that, Deepti? What would you suggest?
I mean, it's hard for me to say because I don't have chronic illness, but I would say work with, what works for you and find a practice that works for you. There's no right or wrong way, but it is, a routine and a practice, and it should be making you feel good about your work and progressing you forward. So if you are housebound and you get bad brain fog, maybe the 10 minutes a day sketchbook thing could be good for you, because you can do it from your home and it doesn't take a ton of time. But experiment, don't be hard on yourself, and know that the fact that you're even trying and making an effort is much more than some people can say. So do what makes you feel good, and it's all about the long-term process and being the best artist that you can be.
And you guys, nobody should do things. I mean, yeah, there's things that we're going to recommend. We're going to say, if you can, this is very helpful. But if you can't, that's fine, right? I mean, everybody has to work with their own situation. And if something is impossible for you, it's okay. You will find other ways around it. And what we try to do with our curriculum is to make it flexible enough so that people have multiple options. Because a lot of the things we're going to suggest, you may not be able to do. And that's okay. Totally fine. Okay, gesture drawing. Really, really good skill. I would say ideally from life, but like we said, you can draw from a TV show or from a video or something like that. But if you can, life is great. Now, you can draw pets, as we're showing you guys here, because when your friend has a bulldog, how can you not draw their bulldog? Basically this like mythological beast that they're living with. But there's other options as well, because I know people get stressed about this because they go, oh, but the bulldog's not going to sit still for me. And, oh, he just got up and moved. I can't do it. And so people just say, nope, that's not an option. I cannot do it. So what do you say about that, Deepti? Person or cat or whatever?
Work with what you have. And I would say, yes, you can do it. I mean, I think gesture drawings are such a good way of, again, learning how to distance yourself from the final product and just be quick and loose. And it really, really, I think every time I do gesture drawings, pushes me forward and makes me be a stronger artist. So, I mean, for me, I like doing gesture drawings just of a chair, even. Like, it doesn't have to be, it can be whatever you have there. But yes, something that moves is a great challenge. I think your feet are a great option because you can just like stick them out and sit here and draw. But work with what you have and really give it a shot, because yes, your subject might move. Yes, your subject might not be cooperative. The cat might, be moving every 3 seconds, but great, do a 3-second gesture drawing. See what you create. It could be really, really fun.
And really, you guys, the point of a gesture is not accuracy. It's about capturing a moment. For example, do you guys see the gesture drawing that Lauren did on the lower middle, where the cat's like, it just looks like somebody like stepped on it. Like, it does not look like a realistic cat. But honestly, Deepti, that is my favorite drawing on this page. And yet it's the least accurate of all the drawings. And so don't tell yourself that this is about, oh, it's got to be photorealistic, because you can capture personality without the image looking accurate.
Absolutely. Just wanted to give a huge shout out to Ashish. I hope I said that right. I'm sorry if I didn't, for this super chat. Thank you so, so much.
And Deepti, sometimes gesture drawings happen and you're not even planning for it. I think this was drawn on a brown paper bag.
Yeah, so I did these from life of my roommate at this time, and it was on like a brown paper bag from the takeout we had just ordered, and there was just a red pen sitting there, and we were watching TV after eating, and I did these from life, and I think they were each like 5-minute gestures, and he was moving and not interested in being a good subject, but I love these, and I actually put them on my Instagram, and it was really fun to work with that challenge. And I don't know if he likes them, but that doesn't matter. I definitely learned, and it was awesome.
Actually, you guys know when people stay still for a long time when they're playing video games. Just do this. Like if you have a nephew or your kids, watch them play video games. It's like just their hands and thumbs move, but everything else is pretty much still. And so I drew my nephew playing video games, and he sat for a while.
Want to give a huge shout out to Karen. Thank you for your super chat too. It's so appreciated, guys, and it really helps Art Prof survive and keep making content for you guys. So thank you.
I want to show this question from Tom G, who says, can you become a successful full-time artist when self-taught, or do you have to attend a school? What do you think, Deepti?
I think you can absolutely become an incredibly successful full-time artist as a self-taught artist. I don't think you have to go to art school. Art school, of course, has a wonderful community that you have. There are perks to going to art school, but really it's about discipline and having a practice that works for you and developing, finding community. But there are my brain is having a fart right now. I can't think of anyone on the top of my head where I'm like, they were self-taught. Maybe you can, Claire, but it's so possible and way more common than you think it is. So don't compare yourselves to others and what, opportunities they have. Just focus on what you can do. And it's super possible.
I believe Lisa Congdon was self-taught. You guys should look her up. She's a very successful illustrator, because really, who's reading your resume when you are working on an animated film? They just want to know, can you get the work done? Honestly, you guys, the only people that care are the people in academia, and you guys know what I think about them. So it's like, yeah, if you want to be a tenured professor at a university, they really care. Did you go to Yale or not? But I mean, everybody else is like, I just want the work. So don't worry about that at all, you guys. And sometimes these sketches, you guys, it's my kids lounging around in their pajamas. This is my daughter watching TV. She's just a big blob of clothing. These are some sketches from my Taiwan tutorial. This is my nephew, again, playing video games and eating candy at the skating rink that we were hanging out at. So sometimes it's these like idle moments where you're like, oh, I can't believe I have to hang out here. What am I going to do? It's like, yeah, I could look at Instagram, but I could also draw. Or sometimes things develop into something bigger. Like this is from Taiwan. This is my dad and my daughter playing Go. And they were there for a while. So I really could sit and develop it. But other times you're just on the street and you've got 2 minutes to go. Okay, so Deepti, I think a big part of being a self-taught artist is learning how to draw space and how to understand backgrounds and landscapes and how to use that. Why are we saying do it on site? Because out of all the practicalities, this is the one that's the biggest pain in the butt.
Well, I think when you're drawing on site, again, I'll say it so many times, the process of seeing something in real space 3D and then translating it onto a page in 2D is a really difficult skill that's overlooked. But also when you're drawing on site, you're able to walk up to a tree and really analyze the textures and look at the colors. You're able to, with reference images, you're given a frame and that's your frame and that's what you can work with. When you're in a food hall like this, Clara, you can really shift your body and figure out the composition that you want. And you have so much more control as the artist to manipulate what you are going to draw. And even just sit there and smell the smells. It's a really luxurious, involved experience that will, regardless of if you're thinking about it, translate onto your page.
Well, because so much of this is being in the space and physically experience it, but also like the atmosphere, like you said. This is from my Taiwan tutorial, and this is a hole in the wall restaurant. It's like a hole in the wall restaurant. I mean, it was so quirky and weird. I think the kitchen was probably the size of my bathroom, and my bathroom is not that big. And I was waiting for food, and I was like, I'm going to draw their kitchen. Sometimes you're at a temple with a beautiful sculpture. But I think being in the place, like smelling the smells, hearing the sounds. So even if you're in the space for a very short period of time, just getting to be there and remembering what that felt like this tofu cart, which was in front of me, I literally think for about 2 minutes, and then it went away. And I was like, okay, I guess that's all I'm going to do. But smelling the space, feeling the light, these are all things that you guys are not going to experience if you download a picture of Taiwan food market. It's such a different type of thing. Now, Deepti, what do you do if you can't travel to Taiwan? Because obviously not everybody can do that. Are there still options near where you live?
Absolutely. Draw your bed, right? Like as soon as you got out of your bed and the sheets are messy, draw that. There's a story there. Maybe you had nightmares or maybe you had a really pleasant sleep, but you draw that, draw your bathroom, walk right out onto your stoop, wherever you are. There is a story everywhere. Hello, the filmmaker speaks. But there is a narrative everywhere, and it could be your cat's litter box. It could be your shower right after you took a shower. The water is glistening. There is a story everywhere, and it does not have to be such a beautiful, exciting place like Taiwan. It can be your grandmother's backyard. There is something everywhere, and you will discover that. Just force yourself to sit down and look and make observations, because you'll be surprised what you can find.
And you guys, things don't have to be so picturesque. I mean, a lot of people will say to me, well, why did you choose to draw that when you could download a picture of a corpse flower from National Geographic and draw that? I'm like, yeah, I could, but I would rather draw this crummy little weed in my driveway because I can really see it and I can really engage with it. If you really need to draw a corpse flower, that's cool, that's fine. But have the experience of drawing that crappy little weed that's in your driveway.
Thank you. Huge thank you to Gargi for this super chat. Thank you again. We appreciate it so much, guys. Thank you so much.
Guys, 2021, we're going to put Art Prof on the map. Now, I know you guys all love us, and we love you guys so much, but we would like our family to get bigger so more people can access our content. So thank you for your support. It really helps us do that. Ideas and brainstorming. Now, why are we putting this in, Deepti? Because I think I've heard a lot of self-taught artists say to me, well, listen, I don't feel that great about my technique. My drawing skills aren't really there yet. I'd like to be better about color. I don't think I'm ready to do ideas or to brainstorm. What do you say to that?
Well, I think it's important to realize that, yes, technique is important. And yes, being a very strong technical artist can take you far. But content and narrative and the emotion behind your art, you're an artist for a reason. And that's down to the ideas behind your work and what it means and what you're trying to say. Even abstract art that you look at that you're like, a lot of time, like that has emotion behind it and it has an impact. So where do you get that content and that narrative and those feelings? It's through the brainstorming process and the ideas. And your work does not have to be the most beautiful Renaissance painting to create an impact. The impact and the narrative and thing that's unique is the content behind it and you as an artist and how you show that. So that's when ideas and brainstorming comes into play.
I don't think you should do them separately, because I've seen a lot of people do that where they're like, okay, right now, I'm going to work on my skills. I'm going to get really good at it. And they do that for a couple of years. And then all of a sudden they realize, oh no, I need to start thinking, using my brain about what my work is about. And then it's like they're brainstorming and idea development. It's so behind their technical skill that it really doesn't work out very well. In fact, sometimes, Deepti, I've seen people in my classes, their ideas are so good and their technique is okay, but the technique is enough to carry the idea. And sometimes it's the other way around where it's like, wow, the technique is so good, but the idea is so boring. Who cares? And so I don't think you guys that this can really fly in terms of separating idea from execution. I really think you got to learn how to balance them. I mean, was that a process you went through at all?
Absolutely. And I mean, when we're talking about a sketchbook practice and doing gesture drawings, of course, there's not going to be some crazy idea between you drawing your cat for 5 minutes. But when you're creating larger pieces or a series or something, that you want to spend more time with, it's all back and forth. You work on the idea, the technique comes with it, because part of your technique that you use might be rooted in the idea. There might be an idea where you want to make a piece about technology or about AI, and then your technique might inform that, like what you're incorporating. Maybe you go from, oh, this is a traditional painting to maybe it should be a sculpture. So it all should be a process and a conversation. And that's just what's going to get make your piece so much stronger.
Bato Shino says, is there a good way to learn from books like Loomis, Bridgman, and Richet? Absolutely. I mean, I use Dr. Paul Richet's Artistic Anatomy book. It's just a really good reference for when you're learning anatomy. I know a lot of people use Loomis and Bridgman, I believe the Bark method as well. This is one of those things. If it works for you, great. Okay. Loomis is not my cup of tea. I just don't think in that manner. And so it's not good for me, but I know Jordan loves Loomis. So it's like whatever works.
This comment from Lambent is interesting. Do I have to draw realistically with perspective and stuff? Because that always trips me up. I don't think, even if you're drawing from life, it doesn't have to be realistic. It's how you translate what you're seeing onto a piece of paper. If you're not great at perspective, practice it. But lean into what you're not good at. I mean, that's how I discovered drawing ugly things, and why I loved skewing perspective and making bodies look disproportionate is because I always accidentally did it. And then I was like, hey, why not just really lean into this? And you might discover your style and what you love. But what do you think, Clara, about drawing realistically?
I think everybody has a different set of goals. For some people, that's very important to them. It was for me. I really was such a stickler about learning all those fundamentals. I know for other people, it's less important. I don't think you should be doing it because you think, oh, well, if I don't draw realistically, I'm a bad artist. Like, that's not the reason to do it. The reason to do it is because, oh, I see these skills. I think they could be useful to me. I'm going to learn them. Don't say, oh, Deepti draws realistically. I want to be like that. And if I don't draw like Deepti, I'm never going to be a good artist. Like, if you have that attitude, you're learning it for the wrong reasons. So I would just say, keep that in mind. Steven says, how should I draw a self-portrait if I don't have an easel? I always struggle because I tend to move between my head a lot in order to see. If you watch the tutorial, that's actually the number one issue with self-portraits is people don't know how to set up the mirror. If you set up the mirror incorrectly, you will draw like this. You can't draw like that. Like, I would die if I do drawing like that. And so there is a way to angle your sketchbook, your easel, whatever you're working on with your mirror so that you're doing this. It's like a 1-inch turn to see the drawing and yourself. So that's a setup issue. That's not the equipment. That's what I would keep in mind. Okay, let's move on and talk about thumbnail sketches. Why is this an essential skill for a self-taught artist?
Thumbnail sketches is all about the process, and before you want to jump into the big kahuna piece, you want to plan it out because you're going to trip up on the final if you just jump right into that. So it teaches you composition, it teaches you lighting, it teaches you process and figuring out the steps to create a final piece. And it's a great tool to have when you're creating that final piece because it's almost like a note that you wrote to yourself. If you're ever like, oh, wait, why does this not refer back to your thumbnails? Your thumbnails are always the initial point of idea and inspiration, and it'll ground you if you're ever feeling frustrated in your final piece.
This, I also think, ties into ideas and brainstorming because if you have an idea, it's not always clear exactly how you should represent it or what media you should do. And so your thumbnail sketches, that's the blueprint for your project. I mean, if you're going to bake a cake, are you going to just run out and go like, I guess if I get some eggs I can make a cake. I mean, dude, I'm going to get a recipe. Okay, fine. I am not like Bobby Flay. I can't make it up. Most of us are not. And so I need a recipe. And that's what you're doing here is you're hashing out what is the recipe. Do I need a pound of sugar or do I need 18 pounds? I don't know what needs 18 pounds, but maybe you can justify it. So your thumbnails are quick, crappy little sketches. And if you guys watch this tutorial, it's me and Kat creating thumbnails based on Jack and the Beanstalk, just totally spontaneously. And I think a lot of people realize after that stream, it wasn't that they weren't good at thumbnails, it's just they weren't thinking about all the various factors. Like, Deepti, do you do thumbnail sketches?
I do, especially as an animator. You're drawing a lot of things over and over again, and you want to make sure what you're spending a day to animate 1 second for looks good. And the thumbnails really, like you said, Claire, it hashes things out. Do I like this background? Do I like the depth? Do I like the perspective? Do I like my character being here? Do I like the color palette I have? Figure all of that out when you're working on a scale of this small and not when you're working huge, because it's so easy to restart and try out. You can like bang out 100 thumbnail sketches in an hour, or less than that, in 10 minutes. You know, it really doesn't have to have much detail as long as it makes sense to you. But I do thumbnail sketches all the time because why waste a huge canvas or a day of animating 10 seconds when you can just figure that stuff out in the early stages?
Darian says, I really try to draw things in perspective and realistically, but they always turn out fantasy and animated. Is that bad to draw everything in one style? It really, really depends on where you are and how much experience you have. Like, I would say if you're in high school, that's probably not such a good thing, because early on in your artistic development, you want to treat the world like the biggest buffet, like taste a little bit of everything. And then you'll realize, oh, I really do not like rambutans. I don't know. I've never tried one before, but I should. The point is that you can quickly fall into a lot of habits that then become a crutch. And that can become a limitation because you're relying on that style so much that you're not trying anything new. It's hard because other people, I say, listen, you got to buckle down and hone that style. So Deepti, how would you know where you fall with that?
See, I think the idea of using it as a crutch is a good one. Do you find yourself resorting or using that style because it's what's easiest to you and you're nervous about trying other things or just doesn't work out? Then maybe push yourself to try other things. And I would say that, you know, if you can't draw things realistically, push yourself to try and do that. Because a lot of times it is nice to have the foundation of really being able to draw things from life and nailing that down, because then you can really mess with things and skew things. But having that basic foundation is key, because you can always ground yourself there. But like you said, Clara, it's the best kind of artists that I always see are people who can do a variety of things, and then they really pick and choose and create their own style based off of that. Don't fall into the trap of seeing that you're good at something and not trying other things just because you're nervous about it and you're like, oh, this works for me, I'm just gonna stay in this lane. You owe it to yourself to try other things, because who knows?
Listen to yourself. If you hear yourself saying, that's really hard, I don't want to do that, I'll just do this instead, that's a sign that you're probably doing it for the wrong reason. So keep that in mind. Vanessa says, how important is it to structure what you learn when you're a self-taught artist, especially for the first year of learning? Is it enough to just draw what you like and see and where it takes you? What do you think?
Again, I think it depends on what your goals are as an artist. And for me, what's really important that I say to all people who are starting out is, as long as you're making work, good. Let's form a routine and let's form a practice. And if what gets you working is to draw what you like and what you see and see where that takes you, that is much better than not doing it because you are not doing something you like. But I would say if you're trying to be a better artist and you're trying to really further your career and your development, you're going to have to do things that you don't like. I don't love doing self-portraits but I had to do it. And now I don't have to do it that much, but it taught me a lot. So structure, I think, is key, but at the very beginning, just make work. Just draw. Hold on. It says it on the back of my shirt. It says it on the back of my shirt. Just draw. Just draw, guys.
And really, you guys, half the battle in teaching yourself is producing work. It does not matter what you're making or what you're learning if you're not making the work. I mean, productivity is huge. That is half the battle. Like, I'd rather somebody be producing a ton of work and maybe not covering as many subjects than being like, oh, I addressed 18 different topics this month, but I didn't make a lot of work. That's not going to help you very much at all. Damini says, I can do realistic, but I can't draw anything from my imagination. How do I improve myself? This is your territory, because I got some thoughts about this to tell you how much a lot of us cannot do that.
Don't be hard on yourself. First of all, it's really hard to draw from your imagination. But I would say that for me, what helps drawing from my imagination is use realistic things as a jumping off point. Use your sketchbook, but brainstorm. Think about, even if you draw a gourd or a mushroom or something from life, add a face to it and see what happens. Use your sketchbook, and it's a process. So how many times am I going to say the word process? But it is a process, and just remove the anxiety and the need to create something amazing, like how you do probably with realistic work, and experiment and try. Don't feel married to the idea of having an image in your brain and needing the sketchbook piece or whatever you're making to look just like that. Use it as a jumping off point and see where it takes you.
I can tell you, Damini, I cannot draw from my imagination. I cannot. Okay. Like, I have tried and it never worked. Like, I look at people like Kat, who did that character design stream with Julie Ben Bassett, and they were just pumping out stuff out of their head, and it looked incredible. And I was so freaking jealous. And you know something? That doesn't mean I'm a worse artist. It means I'm a different artist, okay? There's frequently this idea that drawing from imagination means you are the most advanced. And, oh, I'm so good, I don't need references. I think that's a mistake, guys, because when you have references, it's just enriching your vocabulary. It's just giving you more ideas. And I've had students say, oh, I'm so embarrassed that I couldn't draw a horse from life. I'm like, I can't draw for a horse from life. Can you? Does that mean you and I are bad artists because we can't do that? No. So you can practice. A lot of it's drawing from life and just building up that like visual dictionary in your head. Like, you're just adding files to your brain, seeing different shapes, and practice, and you will definitely get there. So if you guys want to access this is a doc that we have accessible for everybody. The link is in the YouTube video description, and it basically maps out what we told you guys today. It also has part 2 as well, but we will do a stream based on that. We have links to the videos, and we also have links to the slideshows and lots of content. And this slideshow that you guys just watched is also available for you guys to use as guidance. And we have many other videos about being a self-taught artist as well. But we have an amazing Art Prof share for you guys today that is just blew me out of the water. So Art Prof share is where one of you guys creates artwork that is in response to a video, or in this case, multiple Art Prof resources. So I want to show you guys this piece by Priya Amargi, who was initially inspired by the December Art Dare, where we asked people to illustrate idioms. So Priya decided to do Hindi idioms, and they sat in the coffee shop with their notepad, thumbnailed. Very proud of that. And the idiom is to throw water on a carefully completed work, indicating quick and careless destruction of cautiously completed work. So what Priya ended up doing was she used this eye as a reference from our Flickr account and created another version of it. So hang on, let me walk you guys through this. There's so many parts to this, okay? So this is a December Art Dare. Priya used some of the eye images on our Flickr page. Then Priya watched our colored pencil tutorial, and they said, I realized that the pandemic has thrown water over my plans for 2020. So it came to spraying water on demonstrating the idiom, and they used ethanol instead. It's a sanitizer that's used to disinfect the virus. And they watched this graphite video to get permission to throw materials together and make something different. Because in this tutorial, I actually rip up my drawing, which I know people freak out about, but that's experimentation. So what do you say, Deepti? I don't think I've ever seen an art prof share use this many resources from us before.
This is so cool. I mean, it's so amazing as an art prof staff member to see someone in our community tying together so many different videos and resources that we've provided and creating something so cool. Clara, when you first showed me these two pieces side by side, I saw the first one and then you pulled up the second one and I literally was like, oh, it was so cool to see it as like a diptych and like side by side. And I mean, visually, it's just beautiful. I love how much thought you're putting into it and how it's so personal to you and the world that we live in. And really, like, there's so many layers to it. This is such a great example of like technical skill working really well with concept, which I know we talked about in our piece. But you know, there is brainstorming, there is idea generation, there is technical skill, there is working from references, and working with something that's personal to you. It's so layered, and I really love this piece. And thank you so much for like caring about Art Prof enough to look at so many of our tutorials. And really, it's so heartwarming to see, and like it makes a lot of our work really worth it to look at something like this. So thanks, great work.
I mean, honestly, you guys, this is ultimately where I think the resources should go to, because this is Priya's thing, okay? Like, this does not look like one of our tutorials. I mean, it draws from all the tutorials, but I was just thrilled that Priya could blend so many different resources and techniques into a single artwork. And that's when it really is your own. It's totally fine if you do one of our tutorials and you want to follow step by step and you want to do exactly as we show it. That's a great way to learn. But this is a whole other way of processing that information and thinking about how you can manipulate it and change it for your own use. Now, if you guys would like to submit for an Art Prof share, oh, by the way, Priya is here with us live in the chat. And they're saying, by the way, I learned how to draw eyeballs from an Art Prof tutorial. Okay, so there's another one in there. So really great job, Priya, on this project. So if you guys want to be considered for an Art Prof share, just go to artprof.org, click on tutorials, and there's a button that will take you to the Art Prof share submission form, so you can be considered for a YouTube shout out. Or you can just tag us on Instagram and use hashtag ArtProfShare. ArtProf has a podcast. It's available on Spotify and also on iTunes. And in a little bit, Deepti and I will be hanging out in the ArtProf Discord. You can meet us in the post live streams channel. And please subscribe to our channel if you want to continue to grow as an artist in 2021. And thank you, as always, to our top Patreon supporters and to everybody here who watches our content, participates in the conversations. We were talking earlier about how much we love this community. So everybody, thank you so much for watching.